Good morning, good afternoon, to all. Let's start from where we left in our last video, where we built our base for the dashboard. In our content, I talked about two things that I will ensure in this particular video. The first part that I told about the logical table calculation, and the second part that I told about how powerful a parameter can. So let's make our data set a little more interactive for the end users so that makes our life or their life a little bit better than normal. So to make this data set work better, we need a parameter to be built. So how do you build a parameter here? So a parameter does a lot of wonderful things, and if you're using an interactive dashboard, probably if you can able to use a parameter in a bigger way, that's going to make our life like phenomenal in the data set. I'm going to show you how easy I'm going to make our data set work beautifully here. So let's go back to our data set again. And I want to create parameters for two different dimensions, right? And here one is called the age, another one is called the balance here. So because now at the moment I have a fixed balance that I kept in here, I say that I have created a basket of 10K in the balance set here, but I would like to change that according to the user friend here. So I don't want people to see 10K. They want to see either a 5K breakup, 10K breakup, 15K breakup, and so on and so forth. Then I can create that. So how do I do that? I'm going to go back to my data set where I can use the logic parameter. I'm going to give a right click here. I'll create a parameter here. When I do that, the parameters field will come into play. Now I can name the parameter relevantly. So please always use the parameter properly. So I'll say balance or balance bins. You can say that, and then I'm going to click this as the data set, and then I'll say integer here. And now you can choose the data set in any way that you want. You can either pick up all, or you can pick up a list, or you can pick up a range here. So I'm going to pick up a range here because I want to start the data set by a simple dimension, and then I want to start the data by 10K. That's the data set I would like to add here. And then I want to start the minimum of breakup in this from 5K. So I want to make this as a 5K breakup to the maximum of 25. And I want the steps to come into place as 5K again. So I want to add a 5K here. And when I give input here, now I got the balance bins here. If you want to make the different name here, because I'm having the balance bin coming twice here. If you feel that that sometimes makes me uncomfortable, because I don't know which one is a parameter and which one is a bin here. So then I can convert this into a balance group here. So name them wisely. And then I'm going to click this data set and then show the parameter here. So now I got the parameter here, and that comes in the list. And then it doesn't work for you because I didn't connect this to a data set or to the balance group yet. So I'm going to go back to a bin balance here, and then I will edit the data set here, and then I'm going to change the balance because this is a manually filled bins for me. Now I want to make this automatic by connecting that to the balance group. When I do that, now when I change this data set to a 15K, you can see that the data sets are automatically changing, and this will be in our dashboard, which allows us to see the data set much smaller or much larger, whichever way the data set has to be seen in here. You can see them all beautifully in this list. So you can see that I have a 5K bracket that comes into place. That becomes 10, 15, 20, and 30. I want to make this data set one more time for the age given to. So I'm going to just give a right click here again and go back to my create a parameter, and we'll call this as age, or I call this as age pickup. And then again, I'm going to choose this data set in the integer again here. But this time around, I'm going to choose a range. I'm going to choose the list here. So I've got all the list values as 1, and then 5, and then 10 here. Then I'm going to give an OK. That way the data set is added. Again, I'm going to add the data set to the list. I'll show the parameter in this list. Now I got the parameter that comes in place here. Again, this is another place where I want the parameter to finish. Let me hide this. Go back to the age group. Click this and then add a parameter in my age group here. Again, I'll come back to the age bins here and edit the bin, and then convert the manual way from this to a age breakup here. I give an OK, and that's going to show you all my ages by 1. And then I can change this. Again, this is not coming in a slider way, so and this is a slide. And then I increase the slide here, and then when I move this, we'll show the valuation really nicely here, and you can see the data sets are then they will showing data set perfectly fast. So now if I build a dashboard, that's going to make life a little more easier. So let me drag the maps in here. And I want to readjust the data set a little bit. So let me bring all my bar charts this way. So I want to bring the data set here, a bar chart, and then let me change the balances to a bar chart from column chart, and then that here, I will all the balances as space. Now I got the list here, and then I feel that the age group bin is not required, so I'm going to just click here and close this button. I will keep the parameters up and running for me, and I'm okay with that. And then opposing data sets are coming nicely. Now I want to add one of the genders here. The gender is a very small one, so then I add a gender below. And then I'll add the jobs with the here because even that is a small one in there. And this data sets are not coming properly here. This is where our data set will work for me. So I'm going to just make this as entirely, or I'm say zip to the widths, and then I'll need not just this standardization. So I think that the data set is a little bigger here. So I'm goes on to gender. I will make this one smaller, which accommodate in my dashboard. Yes, it's coming nicely. And then I want the age to also come into place. I'm going to say entire view. So now I got the list here. Let me make this more readable. I'm going to make this as automatic. Then I think that I have a lot of things here, so with the top series now I'm not able to see everything yet. That's okay. So let me just close this. I will gender, put it up here. More in here of these dimensions. I will close all these dimensions, so that will make my data set more readable for me. And I will use this size also for it, so that we can see all of them in light. Let's go. So I want to make use of all this data as much as I can. So I will use this summary word. So I want to use this MN but so that I can see the data set in the previous. So now I got the data that I wanted to see with. Yes, I caught almost all of it. So then I'll make this as entirety. So by that way the screws are going off. Now I can readjust this a little bit because the data set allows me to see the data better. You can pick again. This will take a little time than normal because take your time, because sometimes when we are adjusting and when we are making this as a more readable data set, we have to make the necessary adjustments. By that way, we can make the data more readable for us. Take time because these formats are going to take a little longer than what we normally anticipate in our list. And then you'll just produce this a little bit more, and then the size can come into play. Stick. Check. So now I got the 4 data set viewed nicely. So now I know the white color job. Again, this is the only reason why I used a pre-map here, which allowed me to get the data what I want, and then I can reduce this, or I can make it a little larger here, or I can make it a little shorter. So how do you want me to see the data? How effectively you want to see your data here? You can see all those data there. Again, this is where I told you earlier, because when we are working with fonts here, so make sure the fonts are visible for us. Again, I made the font size a little different here, so that you can choose the font size. I made the font size as, I kept the font size as basics here, so now we can change the font size to a little better here. So you can make this font size within smallest more. By that way, you can see all the data set in a single view. We can see what is a white color job and blue color, and the other job variants are getting in percentage, and percentage allows me to see the data set really nicely, and then we can make and use all the dashboard. So let me adjust this. Furthermore, the data set to really add our dimension and looper. So you can see the data set are making the ways to other point, and then we can work around with all these dimensions. So this is how we can build a dashboard, and now we can adjust the dashboard accordingly and see how this is going to work for me. This is our customer segment dashboard. So now I know by region what is the number of customers I have, by age, by balance, and by the gender, and as well as by the jobs here. Again, when I reduce the size, I can see the data set a little better, because you readjust it and see to that you are getting every aspects of your data nice, and then this allows you to get your bins a little more detailedly here. So let me keep this as 5, and then let me make this as more data dimensional one, and then I make this as the entire view so that I can see all my data better. And you can set the entire view for all the data dimension. So by that way, it allows you to break your data set or make your data set work beautifully. Let's build the next logic here called how to build a storyboard here. We'll see that upcoming point, and then we'll see how we're going to use this. Let's jump into the storyboard right now. So let's see how we are going to create a storyboard. I'm going to add a storyboard here, and then let me add the custom data set in this list here. Before I do that, I would like to keep a data set going well for our filters here. So we already talked about filter a little bit, and then let me show you how I use filter even better. So I'll go back to my segment data set again, and I'm going to click one of the maps, because based on this, I'm going to create a filter here. Then I'm going to use a filter here. Clicking the filter, automatically my actions and product have been added automatically in this list. And I click the data set, you can see automatically my entire data set changes here as per the action data set. This is the way we can build a list, and then we can see how each and every data works for us, and we can change the data set faster. Now the storyboard will allow us to do that beautifully. So now I change this storyboard to all data set, which allows us to say all regional customers. So this is the first storyboard that I have added here. Now I would like to add this data set to a better point. Then again I'm changing this data set to an automatic so that I can see the entire view here and adjust this accordingly. Now I'll add another blank here. And when I add the blank, I'm reiterating the segments again. When I click the England right now, so it's going to say on England right now. Again, if you want to name the data set better here, you can do that. Then I'm adding another blank here. I'm going to call this time Scotland here. And then I'll say all Scotland. And once I do that, I can add another dimension here and then say of all reindeer. And finally, I will add one more dimension to the data set here toward all mount of that. So when I do a data set here, now we can see that whenever I place the cursor, I'm hitting a tooltip that comes in easy. So if you don't want a tooltip to appear, because sometimes when I go have data set coming here, the data set might not really work for me beautifully. So that's the reason why we always need a data set which works to do things better. So let's change some basics here. Let me go back to my customer segment here and then go to the worksheet, and then I can just say remove the tooltip. And this is one thing that I will do in all aspects, because I don't need a tooltip to be shown when we are adding a storyboard here. By that way, my data will not really make our life a little more odd, and then it's going to make our life beautiful wherever we don't really require a tooltip to come into play. In my dashboard nor in my storyboard, I wish to keep the tooltip into place. I'm removing for each and every one of them. When I go back to my storyboard, you can see the data set better. So I'm making some last minute adjustments that we are going to watch. That's perfect. So now when I go back to the first list, it shows all customer details. Again, I have to adjust this. Again, this is, let me just make it a little more. Let me make this as more and reset. Let me use this fit size, or I can create a range here. Then I move the storyboard. We can see the storyboard shows you what happens in England, what happens in Scotland, what happens in Wales, and what happens in Ireland. This is how I can create a customer storyboarding. And I can do this a little better because when I go to the data set in here, you can see all my data set comes in memory fields. You are going to save this as a Tableau packaged one, so you can see them nicely. You don't want to have this as a flat, unfilterable pictures here. Instead, you can make this data set better. If you want to make the data even more fine-tuned one, you are capable of doing it by adding the filter component for each and every aspect of the data set. Now, at the moment, when I created a customer segment here, my filtration happens only from my maps here. This gives you the filter point that I'm looking forward for. But when I click this data set, nothing happens here. When I click this data set, nothing happens here. You can see that there's not a huge change that's happening in our data set here. Because of one good reason. The reason why is I didn't add the filter part for the other dimensions. If you want to add a filter part here, you can do that in the dashboard action. At the moment, my current filtration that I did is based on my, if I want from all the data set, probably I can check all of them and then keep the data set work for me better, so that I can, when I use the data set wherever I need. So now I choose all the data set here and then I give an OK. And then OK right now. So that's going to give me the storyboard big kick here. And then when I can use the dashboard also to a better way. So you can see the data set are changing really nicely here. And you can see the data sets are changing here. And then you can pick up the white collar job, how many of them are there, and you can add a filter tool. So now I can say in England, a white collar job, 70% of the people are doing a white collar job here. So that's how the data set works for you. So you can see the data set, it works in a different dimension. So this is how we can play around with our entire data set. With this, we are finalizing our module number 6, where we can play around with the dashboards here. And you can see how the dashboard works with each and every specific country that I'm dealing with. And then you can showcase that data and zoom the data accordingly, and then make sure data will work as per the maps they are looking for. So just when you are doing this, take a little more time than normal, because we need to work with lots of data here, and then we'll see how each data set is going to work for us. By that way, we can make our life a little more easier. Here in the map, if I can able to make the data more readable for me, or more useful for me, then I can add the label here, and then let me edit the label here a bit. And then by that way, I can use the dataset label better, so that I can use the label component one after the label. If you want to make the uniformity of the dataset everywhere, you can do that also. So by that way, I'm making the data work better for me. So now I know exactly the country and as well as the other list. So if you want to make this a little bit more you can make it zoom, because this is not going to change much as I'm adding the storyboard here. So I'm just zooming it according to the data set here, and then I'll make it with as best as possible. And I'm recentering the data set also here, so that I can name the data exactly what I want to see here. So now when I lower time spent as little as possible. So zooming is automatically getting adjusted here. That's okay for me. So now I got the entire list work, and then it will see all customer listings. I can just switch a little more cumbersome than normal. Again, remove it. You can see the storyboard gives you valuation. You can readjust the map as per your visibility level, and then you can do a lot more here. Normally, when I work with this database set, I'll add and save this in 2 different dimensions. This is my customer segment dashboard. So I can either save them in a normal Tableau workbook, which allows you to open the data set in a Tableau workbook. And if you are using a reader to save the data set, you can do that also. I'm saving them in Tableau desktop edition, and I'm going to save as not only in desktop edition. I'm going to convert this into a Tableau packaged workbook, which allows me to open this data set in a Tableau reader, so that I can literally filter this. I don't want to see this in a picture based. Instead, I can see them in a Tableau based one, and then which makes our life a little more easier to work. This is how we build our data set in Tableau, and this is our module 6 completed here in 2 different videos. This is the signing off for myself Academy YouTube channel, and happy analysis. Thank you.